He spent his last $900 on something buried, because sometimes the only place left to go is underground. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Somewhere warm, I hope. Because this story begins in the cold. The kind that seeps through denim, through bone, through memory. The kind that doesn't ask permission. Ethan Cole knows that cold. He's 42, a former Marine with a back that stiffens in the mornings and a silence that follows him like a second shadow. He sleeps in a rusted pickup parked off Route 7, just past a gas station that never seems to close but never seems to care. The engine hasn't run in weeks. The heater died long before that. What keeps him alive isn't the truck. It's the dog. Rex. A German shepherd with a sable coat dulled by dust and time, but eyes still sharp, still watching, always watching. Rex doesn't whine. Doesn't beg. He just stays. Curled near Ethan's boots at night, ears twitching at every passing semi, every distant footstep, every shift in the wind. Like he's guarding something. Or someone. The morning this story begins, the sky hangs low and gray over a stretch of forgotten land just outside Spokane. The air smells like wet metal and pine. Ethan sits on the tailgate, rubbing warmth into his hands, counting what's left in his wallet. $900. Every cent he has. No job. No address. No one waiting. Just him and a dog that refuses to leave. Most men would spend it on food. Maybe a motel room. Maybe a bus ticket out of town. Ethan doesn't. Because Ethan sees something no one else sees. A listing. Printed on cheap paper, taped crookedly to a bulletin board inside the gas station. Cold War bunker. Private sale, $900. As is. No photos. No promises. Just an address scribbled in blue ink and a number that's already been crossed out. The cashier says it's a joke. Place is a hole in the ground, he mutters, not even looking up. Nobody wants it. Ethan nods like that makes sense. Because maybe it does. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants him either. Outside, the wind picks up, carrying the scent of distant rain and something older. Something forgotten. Rex lifts his head. Just slightly. His ears tilt forward. Not toward the road. Not toward the trees. Toward something else. Ethan notices. He always does. You hear that? He asks softly, though there's nothing there. No sound. No movement. Just a feeling. A pull. The kind you don't explain. You just follow. 2 hours later, they're standing in the middle of nowhere. A stretch of land that looks like it gave up on being anything long ago. Dry grass. Rusted fence posts. A sky too big for comfort. And in the center of it, a steel door. Half buried. Weathered. Cold to the touch. The bunker. Ethan stands there for a long moment, keys in hand, like he's about to unlock something more than just a door. Rex doesn't move. He's staring at the ground. Not the door. Not Ethan. The ground just a few feet away. Still. Focused. Waiting. It's just a place to sleep, Ethan mutters, more to himself than the dog. But even as he says it, something doesn't sit right. Because Rex isn't acting like this is just a place. He's acting like they've arrived somewhere, important. Ethan exhales slowly, then steps forward and turns the key. The lock resists. Then gives. The door creaks open with a sound that echoes deeper than it should. Like it's been waiting. A rush of cold air spills out. Not fresh cold. Not outside cold. This is different. Still. Heavy. Carrying the faint scent of iron, and time. Ethan flicks on his flashlight. The beam cuts through darkness, revealing concrete walls, narrow steps leading down, shadows that don't quite sit still. "Home," he says quietly. Rex doesn't follow. Not yet. He's still standing in that same spot, eyes locked on the ground. Then, slowly, he lets out a low, quiet sound. Not a bark. Not a growl. Something deeper. Something certain. Like he knows. Like something beneath them, is already awake. The stairs groan under Ethan's weight as he steps down, one hand brushing the cold concrete wall, the other gripping the flashlight like it is the only thing holding the dark back where it belongs. The beam trembles slightly, not from fear, just from the cold settling deeper into his joints. The air down here feels different, thicker somehow, like it has been waiting too long to be disturbed. Each breath carries a faint metallic tang, old and quiet, like something sealed away on purpose. Behind him, the door remains open, a thin slice of gray daylight stretching across the top of the stairs, already fading. Rex still has not moved. Ethan pauses halfway down and glances back. "Come on, boy," he says softly, his voice echoing more than it should. Rex stands at the entrance, unmoving, ears forward, body still as stone. Not afraid. Focused. Listening. Ethan has seen that posture before. Not in cities. Not in crowds. But in places where something is not right, even if you cannot see it yet. He exhales slowly and continues down. The bottom of the bunker opens into a narrow corridor, about 6 feet wide, maybe 20 feet long, lined with old pipes that run along the ceiling like frozen veins. Some are wrapped in peeling insulation. Others drip faintly, each drop echoing in the silence like a distant clock. Time does not move the same way down here. It stretches. It lingers. The flashlight sweeps across a metal table bolted to the floor, a few rusted shelves, a chair tipped on its side as if someone stood up in a hurry and never came back. Ethan steps forward, boots scraping softly against concrete dust. "Just a place to sleep," he repeats under his breath, though the words feel thinner now, like they do not belong here. He sets his pack down near the wall and takes a slow turn, scanning every corner. No movement. No sound. Just the low hum of silence pressing in from all sides. Then he hears it. Not from ahead. Not from behind. From above. A faint shift. Like something settling. Ethan freezes. The flashlight stops mid-sweep, the beam landing on a section of wall that looks no different from the rest. Smooth. Gray. Solid. But something about it feels off. He tilts his head slightly, listening. Nothing. Just the echo of his own breathing. Probably the wind, he mutters, though there is no wind down here. He moves closer anyway, drawn by something he cannot name. His fingers brush the surface of the wall. Cold. Solid. Unyielding. But when he presses just a little harder, there is a sound. Not loud. Not obvious. Just a faint, hollow response beneath the concrete. Ethan pulls his hand back slowly. His heartbeat picks up, not from fear, but from recognition. He has felt this before. On missions. In places where things were not what they seemed. Above him, Rex finally moves. His paws step onto the metal stairs, slow and deliberate. Each step echoes down, steady and controlled. When he reaches the bottom, he does not come to Ethan right away. He walks past him. Straight to that same section of wall. He stops inches from it. Sits. And stares. Not at Ethan. Not at the light. At the wall. Like he has been here before. Ethan watches him for a long moment, something tightening in his chest. "What is it?" he asks quietly. Rex does not respond. He just leans forward slightly, nose close to the surface, inhaling slowly. Then he lets out that same low sound again. Not warning. Not fear. Certainty. Ethan steps beside him, raising the flashlight, tracing the edges of the wall more carefully now. And that is when he sees it. A line. Faint. Almost invisible. Running vertically from floor to ceiling, just a shade darker than the rest of the concrete. Not a crack. Not damage. A seam. Hidden in plain sight. Ethan reaches out again, this time slower, more deliberate. His fingers follow the line, feeling for anything that should not be there. A ridge. A shift. Something. Then his hand stops. There. A small indentation. Barely noticeable. About the size of a coin. He presses it. Nothing happens. He presses harder. Still nothing. Rex shifts beside him, tail still, body tense, eyes never leaving that spot. Ethan exhales, steps back half a pace, then tries again, this time angling his thumb just slightly differently. There is a click. Soft. Mechanical. And somewhere deep within the wall, something answers. The sound does not come all at once. It begins as a whisper beneath the concrete, a slow mechanical breath that has not been taken in decades. Then it deepens. A low internal shift. Metal against metal. Something unlocking from the inside. Ethan does not move. His thumb stays pressed against the indentation as if letting go might stop whatever has already started. The wall in front of him trembles slightly, just enough for the beam of his flashlight to catch dust drifting down like fine ash. Rex stands beside him, unmoving, his posture steady, eyes fixed forward with a calm that does not belong to ordinary moments. Then, with a muted groan, the seam splits. Not wide. Not dramatic. Just enough. A thin line opens down the center of the wall, revealing darkness behind it that feels deeper than the bunker itself. Ethan exhales slowly, his breath visible in the cold air, though he does not remember it being this cold before. The wall begins to slide inward, inch by inch, guided by a mechanism that still works with unsettling precision. No electricity. No visible power. Just something that was built to endure. When it finally stops, a narrow passage stands before them, no more than 3 feet wide, descending slightly into the earth at a shallow angle. The air that escapes from it is different. Older. Heavier. It carries a scent that Ethan recognizes immediately but cannot place. Not danger. Not decay. Something else. Memory. He lowers his flashlight, angling the beam into the opening. The light stretches forward but does not reach the end. It just disappears into a quiet that feels almost intentional. "You seeing this?" he murmurs, though there is no one to answer but the dog. Rex steps forward before Ethan can move, crossing the threshold without hesitation. His paws make no sound against the concrete floor of the hidden passage. He does not look back. He does not ask. He simply goes. Ethan watches him for a second, something tightening in his chest, then follows. The moment he steps inside, the temperature drops again. Not sharply. Subtly. Like stepping into a place untouched by the outside world. The passage is lined with smoother walls, less worn, less exposed. This part of the bunker was not meant to be found. The ceiling lowers slightly, forcing Ethan to tilt his head as he walks. The beam of the flashlight moves with him, revealing faint markings along the walls. Numbers. Symbols. Faded stencils that have survived time better than they should have. He does not stop to study them. Not yet. Because something ahead pulls his attention forward. The passage opens after about 20 feet into a second chamber. Smaller than the first, but more intact. The air here does not move at all. It just sits. Waiting. Ethan steps in slowly, scanning the room. A desk stands against the far wall. Metal. Clean lines. Not rusted like the one outside. Above it, a single shelf. On the shelf, a row of sealed containers. Uniform. Labeled. Untouched. To the left, a locker. Closed. To the right, a narrow cot with a thin mattress still in place, as if someone expected to return. But no one did. Rex is already in the center of the room. Not exploring. Not circling. Just standing. Looking at the desk. Ethan follows his gaze. There is something on it. A box. Rectangular. About the size of a shoebox. Matte black. No markings on the top. No dust on its surface. That is what stops Ethan. Everything else in this place carries time on it. This does not. He steps closer, each movement slow, deliberate, as if the room itself is watching. His flashlight rests on the box now, the beam steady, revealing edges that are too clean, too precise. That does not belong here, he whispers. Rex shifts slightly beside him, not stepping closer, not stepping away. Just waiting. Ethan reaches out, his hand hovering over the box for a moment before touching it. The surface is cold. Not the cold of air. The cold of something sealed. Preserved. He hesitates, just for a second, then lifts the lid. It opens without resistance. Inside, there is no gold. No money. No weapons. Just a stack of envelopes. Carefully arranged. Each one sealed. Each one addressed. Ethan's breath catches as the flashlight reveals the name written on the top envelope in faded ink. He reads it once. Then again. And this time, he does not whisper. Because the name staring back at him, is his. Ethan does not breathe for a moment. The name on the envelope does not fade. It does not shift under the light. It stays there, steady, undeniable. Ethan Cole. Written in a hand that feels familiar in a way he cannot immediately place, like a voice half remembered from a dream. His fingers tighten slightly around the edge of the box as if the ground beneath him has tilted just enough to notice. That is not possible, he says quietly, though. There is no certainty in the words. Rex does not move. He sits beside Ethan now, eyes flicking once from the envelope to Ethan's face, as if measuring something deeper than confusion. The air in the room feels heavier. Not threatening. Just, aware. Ethan reaches into the box slowly, carefully, like whatever sits inside might disappear if handled too quickly. He lifts the top envelope. It is thicker than expected. Not just paper. Something inside. Something preserved. The seal is intact. No tears. No damage. He turns it over in his hands, the texture rough but deliberate, like it was meant to last. On the back, a date. Faded, but readable. 1986. Ethan's brow tightens. That is years before he was even born. His thumb rests against the edge of the seal. He hesitates. Not out of fear. Out of something else. Respect, maybe. Or the quiet understanding that once opened, something cannot be closed again. All right, he murmurs under his breath. Then he breaks the seal. The sound is soft, but it echoes in the stillness like a decision. Inside, there is a folded letter. Beneath it, a small metallic object slips slightly against the paper, catching the beam of the flashlight. Ethan sets the envelope on the desk and unfolds the letter first. The paper resists at the creases, stiff with age. His eyes scan the first line. Then stop. He reads it again. Slower this time. If you are reading this, then somehow, this place found you before the world did. Ethan's chest tightens. The words do not feel random. They feel precise. Directed. As if written for this exact moment. His gaze moves down the page, each line pulling him deeper. The handwriting is steady, controlled, like someone trained to write clearly under pressure. It speaks of a bunker built not just for shelter, but for storage. Not weapons. Not supplies. Records. Truths that were never meant to disappear, only to wait. It mentions a unit. A name Ethan recognizes instantly, though he has not heard it spoken in years. The same unit he once served in. The same one tied to a mission that was never fully explained. His jaw tightens slightly as memories begin to surface. Fragments. Conversations cut short. Orders that did not quite make sense at the time. The letter continues. It speaks of mistakes. Not in anger. Not in regret. In responsibility. It speaks of names that were left out of official reports. Of actions that were never acknowledged. Of men who carried more than what was written about them. Ethan swallows slowly, the room around him fading slightly as the words settle in. At the bottom of the page, a final line. Some truths are buried to be forgotten. Others are buried to be found by the right man. Ethan lowers the letter slightly, his hand no longer as steady as before. The silence presses in again, but it feels different now. Not empty. Full. He glances at Rex, who watches him with the same calm certainty as before, as if none of this is a surprise. Then Ethan reaches back into the envelope and lifts the object beneath the letter. It is a dog tag. Old. Worn at the edges, but still intact. The chain is gone, but the metal carries weight. He turns it over in his hand, the engraved letters catching the light. The name on it is not his. But he knows it. He knows it too well. A man from his past. A man whose story never quite lined up with what they were told. Ethan exhales slowly, the kind of breath that comes when something long buried begins to rise. The bunker is no longer just a place to sleep. It is a message. And somehow, it was waiting for him. Ethan does not look away from the dog tag for a long time. The metal rests in his palm, heavier than it should be, as if it carries more than just a name. The engraved letters catch the light again, and this time he does not need to read them slowly. He already knows. Daniel Hayes. The name settles in his chest like something unfinished. Hayes had been quiet. Steady. The kind of man who did not speak unless it mattered. The kind of man you trusted without needing to ask why. And then one day, he was just gone. The report had been simple. Too simple. Unaccounted for. That was the phrase. Clean. Final. No follow-up. No answers. Ethan remembers standing in formation, hearing it read out like a line in a script that no one questioned. But he had questioned it. Not out loud. Never out loud. In the Marines, you learn quickly which questions stay inside. His thumb traces the edge of the tag now, feeling the worn grooves, the small imperfections that only come from being carried for a long time. You were not supposed to end up here, he murmurs, though the room gives no response. Rex shifts beside him, lying down slowly, his body angled toward the desk, eyes still alert but calmer now, as if something important has already been found. Ethan sets the tag down carefully and reaches for the box again. There are more envelopes beneath the first. Each one sealed. Each one addressed. Some with names he recognizes. Others he does not. All written in the same steady hand. He picks another at random, the paper whispering softly as it slides free. This one is not addressed to him. The name is different. But the date is close to the one on the first envelope. Within the same year. Within the same time frame as that mission. Ethan exhales slowly and breaks the seal. The letter inside carries the same tone. Calm. Precise. But this one speaks differently. It tells of movements. Of operations that never made it into official records. Of decisions made in rooms far from the field. It speaks of a group. Not large. Not public. A small network of men who chose to keep records when others chose silence. Not for revenge. Not for exposure. For truth. The word appears more than once. Truth. Ethan leans back slightly, the weight of the room shifting around him. The bunker is not just a forgotten shelter. It is an archive. A place where stories that did not fit clean reports were stored away, waiting for someone who would understand what they meant. His gaze drifts to the locker in the corner. Closed. Unmarked. He stands slowly, joints stiff, the cold now part of him rather than around him. Rex watches but does not follow. Not yet. Ethan crosses the room, each step measured, the quiet pressing in deeper with every movement. He reaches the locker and rests his hand on the handle. For a moment, he does nothing. Just stands there. Because something about all of this feels intentional. Not random. Not accidental. Like every step has been guided by something he cannot see but can feel. You led me here, he says quietly, glancing back at Rex. The dog does not move. But his eyes hold steady. Ethan nods once, then pulls the locker open. The hinges do not creak. They move smoothly, like they have been used more recently than they should have been. Inside, there are files. Dozens of them. Stacked neatly. Labeled with dates, locations, unit numbers. His unit appears more than once. So do names he has not heard spoken in years. He pulls one folder free, the paper inside crisp, preserved, detailed. Not summaries. Not reports meant for approval. These are full accounts. Personal. Honest. He flips through a few pages, his eyes moving faster now, recognition building with each line. This is everything they were never told. Everything they were never allowed to ask. Behind him, Rex stands slowly and walks toward the center of the room again, stopping near the desk. His head lowers slightly, nose close to the box, as if reminding Ethan that what matters most is still there. Ethan turns back, folder still in hand, and looks at the stack of envelopes again. One of them is still open. His name still visible. Waiting. He steps closer, the weight in his chest no longer just confusion. It is clarity, forming slowly, like a shape coming into focus. This place was not just waiting for anyone. It was waiting for someone who would recognize what was inside. Someone who would know the names. The missions. The gaps. Ethan sets the folder down and picks up the letter addressed to him again, his eyes returning to the lines he read before. They feel different now. Clearer. More direct. As if the meaning has shifted now that he understands what this place truly is. He looks down at Rex, who finally relaxes, his body settling against the cold floor, breathing steady, calm. Not searching anymore. Because the search is over. And whatever comes next, is not about finding. It is about remembering. Ethan sits back down slowly, the letter still in his hands, but he does not read it again right away. He just listens. Not to a sound. To the absence of one. The bunker holds a kind of silence that does not feel empty anymore. It feels deliberate. Like everything here has already said what it needed to say, and now it is waiting for him to catch up. His fingers tighten slightly around the paper, the edges pressing into his skin as if to remind him that this is real. Not a dream. Not a memory. Real. He exhales and lowers his gaze back to the page, this time reading more carefully, slower, as if each word carries weight that was not fully understood before. The letter continues where his memory had paused, speaking not just of the past, but of responsibility. It does not ask for revenge. It does not demand exposure. It speaks of something quieter. Restoration. Of names that were never spoken again. Of actions that were folded into silence because they did not fit the version of events that was easier to tell. Ethan's jaw tightens, but not in anger. In recognition. Because he remembers the feeling. The sense that something had been left unfinished, even when everyone else moved on. The letter explains that the bunker was never meant to be permanent storage. It was a temporary safeguard. A place to hold truth until the right person could carry it forward. Not the strongest. Not the loudest. The right one. Ethan pauses there, his eyes resting on that phrase. The right one. It sounds simple. But it is not. It never is. He glances at Rex, who lies quietly now, his breathing slow and steady, his presence grounding in a way nothing else has been for a long time. You knew, Ethan says softly, though he does not expect an answer. Rex's ear flicks slightly, but he does not lift his head. He does not need to. Ethan looks back at the letter, finishing the final lines. There is no signature. Just a closing sentence, written slightly darker than the rest, as if pressed with more intention. If you have found this, then you already understand what matters. Do not let it disappear again. Ethan lowers the paper slowly, his hands steadier now, not because the weight is gone, but because he has accepted it. The room feels different. Not smaller. Not larger. Clearer. Like a place that has been waiting for a purpose and finally has one. He sets the letter down carefully beside the box. And reaches for the stack of envelopes again, this time not as someone searching, but as someone preparing. Each one is a piece. A name. A story that was paused instead of finished. He gathers a few of them, along with the folder he opened before, holding them close for a moment as if testing the weight of what he is about to carry. It is not light. But it is not crushing either. It is, right. He stands, moving with more certainty now, and walks back toward the narrow passage. The bunker no longer feels like a place to hide. It feels like a place to begin. Rex rises immediately this time, stepping beside him without hesitation, his body aligned with Ethan's movement as if they are no longer reacting, but choosing. Together, they move back through the passage, the hidden door still open, the main corridor waiting beyond. When they step out into the larger room, the air feels different again. Not warmer. But less distant. Ethan pauses at the base of the stairs and looks up toward the thin strip of daylight still visible above. It has shifted slightly, the gray now touched with a faint hint of evening. Time has passed, though he does not know how much. It does not matter. What matters is what comes next. He grips the folder and envelopes more firmly and starts up the stairs. Each step feels heavier than the last, not from exhaustion, but from the quiet understanding that when he opens that door again, nothing will be the same. Not the world. Not him. At the top, he pushes the door open fully, letting the outside air rush in, sharp and alive, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain. Rex steps out first this time, scanning the open land with calm awareness before turning back briefly, just enough to make sure Ethan is there. He is. Ethan steps out into the fading light, the sky stretching wide above him, no longer empty, just waiting. He closes the bunker door behind him, not to hide what is inside, but to protect it, for now. Because some things are not meant to be exposed all at once. Some things are meant to be carried forward, piece by piece, by someone who understands what they are holding. Ethan Cole was once a man with nothing left. Now, standing in the quiet field with a German shepherd at his side and a truth in his hands, he realizes something simple. He was never empty. He was unfinished. The sky is darker now, the kind of deepening blue that settles in just before night takes full hold. Ethan stands still for a moment after closing the bunker door, his hand resting lightly against the cold metal as if feeling for something beneath it, something that has already changed. The wind moves gently across the open land, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain, but it feels different now. Not empty. Not indifferent. It feels like a beginning. Rex moves a few steps ahead, his paws quiet against the dry grass, then stops and turns back, his gaze steady, waiting. Not urging. Just, present. Ethan nods slightly, more to himself than the dog, and starts walking toward the old pickup. The truck looks smaller than it did before. Or maybe Ethan just sees it differently now. The rust, the worn tires, the cracked windshield that caught too many cold mornings and silent nights. It had been a place to survive. Nothing more. But survival is not what this is about anymore. He opens the driver's side door, the hinge creaking softly, and sets the folder and envelopes carefully on the passenger seat, as if placing something fragile in a space that has never held anything valuable before. Rex jumps into the back without being told, settling into his usual spot, but his posture is different now. More relaxed. Less watchful. Like a job has been completed, even if the purpose is still unfolding. Ethan slides into the seat and rests his hands on the steering wheel, though he does not turn the key. The engine would not start even if he tried. Instead, he just sits there, looking at the papers beside him. Names. Dates. Stories that were never meant to be lost, just delayed. He reaches for the top envelope again, the one with his name, and studies it under the fading light. The ink has not changed. The letters remain steady, like they have been waiting longer than he has been alive. He turns it over once more, tracing the date with his thumb. 1986. That means whoever wrote it knew something would carry forward beyond their time. Not hope. Not luck. Intention. Ethan leans back slightly, his eyes drifting toward the horizon where the last line of daylight fades into something quieter. He thinks about Hayes. About the way he used to stand during briefings, still and focused, like he was always listening for something beneath the surface. About the way he disappeared without explanation, leaving behind a silence that no one questioned out loud. Ethan had carried that silence for years. Not as a burden. As a question. Now he understands. It was never meant to stay unanswered. Rex shifts slightly in the back seat, letting out a slow breath, his presence filling the cab with something steady and real. Ethan glances at him in the rearview mirror, meeting those calm amber eyes for just a second. You did not just find a place, he says quietly. You found the truth. Rex blinks once, then lowers his head again, resting it between his paws, as if the meaning of that statement is already understood. Ethan looks forward again, the weight in his chest no longer confusion or doubt. It is direction. Clear and quiet. He reaches for the folder, flipping it open once more, scanning the pages with a new kind of focus. Locations. Dates. Names that connect in ways he had never been allowed to see before. Patterns begin to form, not in sharp lines, but in subtle links, like pieces of something that was always there, just hidden beneath layers of silence. He closes the folder gently and sets it back down. This is not something that can be solved in a single night. It is not meant to be rushed. But it is also not meant to be ignored. Ethan opens the truck door again and steps out into the cooling air. The land stretches out around him, wide and quiet, the bunker behind him now part of something larger than just a hidden structure in the ground. He turns slightly, looking back at the spot where the steel door sits beneath the earth, invisible unless you know where to look. I will come back, he says, not as a promise, but as a fact. Because he already knows he will. Rex jumps down from the truck and walks to stand beside him, his body aligned with Ethan's stance, both of them facing the same direction, toward a horizon that no longer feels distant. Ethan exhales slowly, the kind of breath that settles something deep inside. For the first time in a long time, he is not waiting for something to happen. He is moving toward it. And somewhere beneath the quiet ground behind him, a bunker built to hold forgotten truths remains still, not because its purpose is over, but because it has finally begun to be fulfilled. The night settles in fully, wrapping the land in a quiet that feels earned rather than empty. Ethan does not rush back into the truck. He stands there a little longer, the folder still resting on the passenger seat, the envelopes catching the last trace of fading light through the cracked windshield. There is no urgency in him now. No panic. Just a steady awareness that what he carries does not need speed. It needs care. Rex moves slowly across the field, nose low to the ground, not searching anymore, just tracing the space as if memorizing it. The wind shifts again, softer now, brushing through the tall grass with a sound like distant whispers. Ethan finally steps back into the truck and pulls the door shut, the familiar creak echoing in the stillness. He sits for a moment, then reaches into the glove compartment. It sticks slightly before opening, revealing nothing but an old map, folded and worn at the edges. He pulls it out and spreads it across the steering wheel, smoothing it with both hands. The lines are faded but readable. Roads. Counties. Names of towns that feel small even on paper. His eyes move slowly across it, then stop. A location circled in pen. Not by him. The ink is darker than the rest, more recent. He leans in closer, studying it. A small town about 40 miles east. Nothing significant on the map. No markings. No notes. Just a circle. He glances at the folder beside him, then back at the map. The connection is not obvious. But it does not need to be. Not yet. Rex jumps back into the truck, settling into the back seat with a quiet certainty, as if the next step is already understood. Ethan folds the map carefully and sets it beside the envelopes. His hand lingers there for a second, feeling the weight of it all together. Paper. Ink. Memory. Truth. He exhales slowly and looks out through the windshield. The road ahead is barely visible now, just a thin stretch of pale dirt cutting through the darkness. No lights. No movement. Just distance. He reaches for the ignition out of habit, then stops. The engine will not answer. It never does. But this time, the stillness does not feel like a limit. It feels like a pause. He opens the door again and steps out, the cool night air settling around him like a reminder that movement does not always begin with a machine. Sometimes it begins with a decision. He walks around to the passenger side and gathers the folder and envelopes, holding them close against his chest. Rex jumps down again, falling into step beside him without needing direction. Together, they start walking. The road is uneven, small stones shifting under each step, the darkness stretching out ahead without promise or guarantee. But Ethan does not hesitate. Each step feels grounded, intentional, like something inside him has aligned with something beyond him. The weight he carries is not just information. It is purpose. After a few minutes, he stops and turns back once more, looking toward the field where the bunker rests unseen beneath the earth. From here, it is just land. Quiet. Ordinary. No sign of what lies below. And that feels right. Not everything needs to be visible to matter. He nods once, a small gesture, then turns forward again. The town on the map is not close, but it is not unreachable either. 40 miles is a long walk. But it is also a beginning. Rex walks slightly ahead now, his pace steady, his ears forward, not searching but guiding in a way that does not need explanation. Ethan adjusts his grip on the folder and keeps moving, the sound of his footsteps blending with the quiet rhythm of the night. Somewhere in the distance, a faint glow begins to form along the horizon, not from the sun, but from something human. Lights. Far away. But real. Ethan watches them for a moment, then lowers his gaze back to the road. He does not need to see the whole path. Just the next step. And then the one after that. The truth he carries will not change the world overnight. It is not meant to. It is meant to be carried. Shared. Placed where it belongs, piece by piece, until the silence that held it begins to loosen. Rex slows slightly, glancing back just once to make sure Ethan is still there. He is. And for the first time in a long time, that is enough. Not because the journey is easy, but because it is finally clear. By the time the horizon begins to soften, the sky shifting from deep blue into the faint gray of early morning, Ethan's steps have slowed but not stopped. The road stretches ahead in long, quiet miles, and yet something inside him feels lighter with each one. Not because the burden is gone, but because it finally has direction. Rex moves beside him, steady as ever, his breath visible in the cool air, his pace never rushed, never uncertain. They have walked through the night without speaking, without needing to. Some journeys do not require words. Only presence. Only trust. As the first thin line of sunlight breaks over the distant trees, the outline of the small town begins to take shape. Low buildings. A water tower. A single road leading in, still quiet at this hour. It is not much. But it is enough. Ethan stops for a moment at the edge of the road, his eyes taking in the place not as a destination, but as the next step. He lowers the folder slightly, adjusting his grip, feeling the edges of the envelopes press gently against his palm. Names. Stories. Lives that were paused, waiting for someone to carry them forward. He exhales slowly, the kind of breath that does not release tension, but settles it. Rex steps forward first, crossing onto the pavement without hesitation, then looks back once, just enough to confirm what has always been true. He is not alone. Ethan follows. The town is waking slowly. A diner light flickers on. Somewhere, a door opens. The quiet hum of a place beginning another ordinary day. But for Ethan, nothing about this is ordinary anymore. He walks past a row of small storefronts, the windows still dark, the signs worn but standing. He does not look for anything specific. Not yet. Because he already knows what matters most is not where he goes first. It is how he carries what he has. He stops near a bench just outside the diner and sets the folder down carefully beside him. Rex sits at his feet, calm, grounded, as if this place is no different than the road they just walked. Ethan opens the folder again, not to search, but to begin. His eyes move across the pages, slower now, more deliberate. Not scanning. Understanding. Each name holds weight. Each line connects to something real. Something that deserves to be seen. He reaches for one envelope at a time, placing them in a small, careful stack, organizing not by urgency, but by meaning. Some will need to be returned. Some will need to be told. Some will simply need to be remembered. A waitress unlocks the diner door and glances at him briefly, her expression neutral but not unkind. Ethan nods once, a quiet acknowledgement, then looks back down at the pages. The world around him continues as it always has. People moving. Doors opening. Coffee brewing. Life unfolding in small, ordinary ways. But beneath that surface, something has shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough. Rex lifts his head slightly, watching the street, then settles again, his presence steady as ever. Ethan closes the folder gently and rests his hand on top of it for a moment, feeling the truth of it all beneath his palm. Not hidden anymore. Not forgotten. Just, carried. He looks out across the street, the early light now touching the edges of buildings, soft and patient. For a long time, he thought he had lost everything. That whatever mattered had already passed him by. But standing here now, with a dog who never left and a truth that found him when nothing else did, he understands something simple. Some things are not taken from you. They are waiting for you to become the man who can carry them. Ethan Cole does not rush. He does not announce anything. He simply stands, picks up the folder, and walks toward the diner door, Rex rising beside him without hesitation. The bell above the door rings softly as it opens, the sound small but clear. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan is not stepping into a place to escape the cold. He is stepping into something warmer. Not comfort. Not ease. Purpose. And somewhere far behind him, beneath the quiet field and the hidden steel door, the bunker remains still, not because its story is over, but because it no longer needs to speak. It has already found the one who will.